I couldn't believe my eyes when the audacious man walked up to our table. Without hesitation, he grabbed my unfaithful wife's hand and, with a sneer, said, "Why stay with this weakling? Let's dance first, and then I'll show you what a real man can do." Keeping my composure, I swiftly executed a practiced move, the sickening crunch of his hand echoing through the room, followed by his cries of pain as he fell to the floor. The restaurant, a high-end establishment, suited understated luxurious lighting bathed the polished mahogany tables in a warm glow while soft piano music played in the background. It was a setting perfect for power lunches and lavish celebrations. A world I once relished, but tonight it felt like a gilded prison. My wife Amal sat across from me, her beauty undeniable. Her dark hair was meticulously styled, and her lips matched the sleek gown that hugged her figure. Yet for all her grace and elegance, her eyes betrayed a chilling distance, a void I couldn't ignore. We had been married for several years, but the past 6 months had brought an unspoken shift. Late nights at her law firm, secretive messages and unexplained absences had driven a wedge between us. I had hoped tonight could bridge that gap, a chance to rekindle what we had lost. Instead, I found myself a spectator watching the woman I loved drift further away. As we sipped our wine, a shadow fell over our table. I looked up to see a man in his mid-30s, tall, muscular, and exuding arrogance. His tailored suit fit him perfectly, but it couldn't mask his smugness. Piercing blue eyes locked onto Emil, completely ignoring my presence. "Amal," he said smoothly. His voice a calculated blend of charm and arrogance. "I didn't expect to see you here tonight." Amal froze, her glass suspended midair, her eyes darting between him and me before she finally spoke. "Lucas," she stammered, her tone betraying more than she likely intended. "What are you doing here?" "Enjoying the city," he replied with a grin. To my utter disbelief, he reached out, took her hand, and added with disdain, "Why stay with him? Let's dance first, and I'll show you what I can offer." The restaurant fell silent. I could feel the eyes of curious onlookers fixed on us. Amal tried to pull her hand free, but Lucas held firm, his audacity igniting a fire of anger within me. I rose slowly, my chair scraping against the floor. "You have 3 seconds to let go of her hand," I said, my tone calm but laced with menace. Lucas turned to sneer on me, and if I don't, what followed was immediate. The sound of bones breaking shattered the silence. And Lucas fell to the floor, clutching his broken hand. His cries echoed through the room, drawing every gaze to our table. Amal gasped, her face a mixture of shock and fear, while other diners froze in astonishment. "Magnus," she whispered, her voice trembling as she grabbed my arm. "What are you doing?" I ignored her, crouching to meet Lucas's pain-stricken gaze. My voice dropped to a whisper only he could hear. "This is just the beginning," I said, my tone devoid of sympathy. "You made a mistake tonight, and I'll make sure you regret it." He glared up at me, his face contorted in agony. "You'll pay for this," he spat through gritted teeth. I turned to Amal, who remained frozen in her seat. "Let him go," I said curtly. She hesitated, her wide eyes darting between me and Lucas. "Now," I snapped, my tone cutting through her uncertainty. Slowly, she stood, her heels clicking against the floor. As she followed me out, behind us, the murmurs of other diners began to rise, turning into a low hum of speculation. The drive home was suffocating, silence filling the car like a heavy fog. Amal sat rigidly, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. I could see her mind racing, desperate to find an explanation for what had unfolded. When we pulled into the garage, I turned off the engine and faced her. "Talk," I demanded, my voice slicing through the quiet. She flinched, her composure crumbling. "Magnus, I don't know what you want me to say," she murmured, her gaze fixed on her lap. "I want the truth," I said, leaning closer. "Who is he? How long has this been going on?" Tears welled in her eyes, but I felt nothing. She had exhausted my sympathy long ago. "It's complicated," she began. I cut her off with a bitter laugh. Confused, I repeated, "Let me simplify for you. Either you tell me everything now, or I'll find out on my own. And trust me, you won't like how that plays out." Her shoulders slumped, and the fight drained out of her. 6 months, she admitted, her voice barely audible. "It started 6 months ago." The confession hit me harder than I expected, even though I had long suspected it. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. What exactly was tonight supposed to be? I asked, my voice unsettlingly steady. A chance to humiliate me in front of everyone. To throw it in my face. She cried, her voice breaking. I didn't know he'd be there, Magnus, I swear. Stop, I interrupted, my tone sharp. I saw the way you looked at him, the way you froze when he spoke. You knew. She covered her face with her hands, her sobs filling the confined space. Of the car, I stared straight ahead, my thoughts racing. I needed answers, but more than that, I needed a plan. The next morning, I sat in my office. The Geneva skyline sprawling before me, and my mind churned with anger and cold determination. Betrayal coursed through me like poison, but I refused to let it destroy me. If Amal and Lucas thought they could walk away unscathed, they were about to face a rude awakening. I started with Lucas. A simple online search revealed his carefully curated social media profiles, photos of luxury cars, private jets, and designer suits painted a picture of wealth. But beneath the glossy facade, cracks appeared: failed ventures, lawsuits, and whispers of shady dealings. Lucas wasn't untouchable. I reached out to a network of associates, people in finance who owed me favors and thrived on exposing fraud. Within hours, I had a damning report on Lucas's bank records. Bank records and risky investments revealed a man living far beyond his means. It was enough to ruin him, but I wasn't done. Next, I turned my attention to Amal, while she pretended life was normal. I quietly gathered evidence of her affair, emails, text messages, and even photos of her and Lucas together. I stored everything in a secure digital envelope. It wasn't revenge, it was leverage. If she chose to fight me during the divorce, I wouldn't hesitate to use it. The final step was to ensure their downfall played out publicly. I arranged for Lucas to be invited to an elite charity gala attended by Geneva's most powerful figures. Simultaneously, I made sure the dossier on Lucas's crimes reached the hands of a scandal-loving journalist. By the end of the event, Lucas's financial crimes and manipulative schemes were front-page news across Switzerland. Amal faced her reckoning when I handed her the divorce papers. She tried to protest, but the evidence left no room for denial. Our prenuptial agreement ensured she walked away with nothing, and the court of public opinion sealed her social downfall. The fallout began with bold headlines splashed across every major outlet. High society scandal: Lucas Heian, exposed in fraudulent schemes. The Heir laid bare every dirty secret: financial crimes, extortion, and the systematic exploitation of wealthy women. Lucas's once pristine image dissolved, and he went into hiding. Authorities launched a formal investigation, freezing his accounts and seizing assets. Former associates abandoned him, eager to distance themselves from the fallout. Amal fared no better. The whispers in high society circles grew louder. Friends vanished, and invitations dried up overnight. Her family, embarrassed by the scandal, distanced themselves, leaving her to face the aftermath alone. When we met in court to finalize the divorce, she was a shadow of her former self. Her once elegant appearance was replaced by tired eyes and quiet desperation. "Magnus," she said softly as we left the courtroom, her voice trembling, "I know I hurt you. Was this really necessary?" I met her gaze, my expression unyielding. "You made your choices, Amal. Choices have consequences." Tears welled in her eyes as she nodded and walked away without another word. Months passed and life settled into a new rhythm. The house once filled with tension and silent resentment now felt peaceful. I threw myself into my work, closing deals and expanding my company's reach across Europe. The sting of betrayal lingered but faded over time, replaced by clarity and purpose. One night I attended another charity event, this time with a sense of quiet confidence. As I moved through the room, I felt a light tap on my shoulder. Turning, I found myself face to face with a woman who exuded quiet sophistication. "Mr. Adler," she said warmly, "I'm Isabel Forer, a historian. I've heard a great deal about your work, it's impressive." We spent hours in conversation. Her wit and intelligence were a refreshing contrast to the shallow interactions I had grown accustomed to. For the first time in years, I felt a spark of something genuine, a reminder that life, despite its challenges, still held beauty. That night, standing on the balcony of my home with the city lights stretching out before me, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. Betrayal had cut deep, but it had also forged me into something stronger. Lifting a glass of wine to the night sky, I whispered words that had become my mantra. "Pain sharpens us. Strength shapes us. I turned to go inside. I left one final thought hanging in the cool night air. Betrayal can break you, but renewal rebuilds you. If you enjoyed the story and want to hear more just like it, don't forget to like the video, drop a comment with your thoughts and subscribe for more stories. Your support helps these stories reach more people, and trust me, the next one, it's even wilder.